Kocaeli is situated in the north part of the Marmara region, and it's a living proof of the civilizations who lived before century there. At the beginning, it was called Bithynia, and changed from Olivia, Astakos, Nicomedia, İzmit to Kocaeli. It's a natural bridge on the roads connecting Asia to Europe, and in the same time an important cultural, economic and geopolitical one too. İzmit that we know today, it was called Astakos by the Magaralı immigrants who settled in Başiskele area in 712 before century. The city dominated the area until the year 300 before century. In 262 before century, Astakos people settled down, and due to Bithynia's king's name Nicomedes, the name of the city changed to Nicomedia. Having an important cultural, trade and geopolitical role on the natural transit routes in Europe and Asia, the city was founded in 712 before century by immigrants from Megara, which settled in the east of İzmit around Başiskele, and it was called Astakos. The city dominated the region until 300 before century, lived between 500 and 435 as an independent city, and minted coins in its name. In 262 before century, Astakos people settled in the region, and city was named Nicomedia because of Nicomedes, the king of Bithynia. Diocletianus declared Nicomedia as the capital city of eastern region at the time when there were some management regulations in Roman Empire by the end of 3rd century. During this period, the city was demolished by Goths, was renewed. The city was slided to east, and the walls of the city were renewed in the form to cover the new area. During this period, in Nicomedia, the hippodrome, palace, temple, baths, public buildings, mints, and the shipyard was built. Emperor Galerius issued the first edict of tolerance known in the world on the 30th of April in the year 311 in Nicomedia. Another feature of this tolerance enactment is that it inspired another second edict, which was expanded to include all regions in Milan in 313. With this enactment in İzmit, the phenomenon of tolerance was founded in the world. During this period, Nicomedia became the fourth largest city following Rome, Antioch, Alexandria. In the city, there was a temple of Demeter. On the side of it, there were temples of the emperor with 8 columns. There was also an altar and a statue of Demeter in the area. In addition, the area was connected to the harbor with a columned street. Except for ruins of the city walls, aqueducts, a monumental fountain, and a water cistern, the Roman works have not survived. In 395, the Roman Empire was divided into two, and Kocaeli, like Anatolia, fell to the share of the Byzantine Empire. İzmit, in 1087, passed into the hands of the Anatolian Seljuks, and was annexed to the Anatolian Seljuk state, established by Kutalmışoğlu Süleyman Şah. In 1097, first of all İzmit, and then İznik passed to the hands of the Crusaders. Between the years 1204 and 1207, İzmit experienced the Latin occupation, the period. Until the year 1261, İzmit changed hands several times between the Turks, the Latins, and the Byzantines. İzmit, in 1337, was precisely captured by the Ottomans. Karamürsel Bey established a navy to protect the coasts that were captured. With the Turkish armies approaching to the Istanbul, by capturing the castles in Kocaeli Peninsula, Byzantine advanced on Orhan Gazi in 1329. The Byzantines were defeated in the war between the Eskihisar and Darıca. İznik, having no hope for war relief, surrendered itself to Turks. Orhan Gazi lifted the siege immediately with the Byzantines bad for the city. İzmit was besieged in 1331. Meanwhile, a large part of the forts near the Orhan Gazi surrendered themselves. İzmit again besieged and captured in 1337. Previously, İzmit was a flag which was bound to the Anatolian province. In the time of Yavuz Sultan Selim, Hersekzade Ahmet Pasha in Karamürsel and Defterdar Abdülselam Efendi brought shipyards in Izmit to good working order by restoring them. Later, Izmit shipyards saw the repair a few times more. In the time of Abdülhamit II, the first governor of the independent flag of Izmit was Selim Sırrı Pasha. The independent districts of Izmit was Yalova, Adapazarı, Kandıra and Geyve. In following years, Iznik was bound to the flag of Izmit. After World War I, in accordance with the Mondros Armistice, British landed their troops in Izmit on July 6, 1920, on the excuse that our warship Yavuz was retained in the Gulf of Izmit. The government house became the headquarters of the occupation forces. On June 28, 1921, Izmit rescued from the Greek occupation. Today's Izmit. Izmit was founded on one of the most important transit routes situated between Asia and Europe. In the same time, the city is known as an historical place too. With its industrial big companies and shopping centers, including its villages and districts, Izmit population reached nowadays 375,000 people. One of the world's giant automotive and automotive supply industry companies are set up in Izmit. The city is known as Turkey's export champion and it represents its industry heartbeat. Izmit, known as an industrial city, has made serious progress regarding culture, art, and not to mention education. Gökay Park, the water sky park, has become one of the city's new attractions after hosting the World and European Championship in 2010. The Hill of Culture represents an important value by sheltering the clock tower, the statue of Atatürk, and Kasr-ı Hümayun overlooking the Gulf, and of course by reflecting the historical structure of the city. Within Izmit's boundaries, there are art and ethnographic museums, which are quite a blessing for those who love history. There can be found lots of historical monuments in the city belonging in particular to Roman Empire and Ottoman Empire periods. Here are some other touristic places that need to be seen: Yeni Cuma Mosque, Fevziye Mosque, Orhan Mosque, Yumurtacı Mosque, Akçakoca Dere Mosque, Watchmaker Ali Efendi's Mansion, Pink Kiosk, historical Kapanca Street, and as well as Redif's building. The fun fair, opened only during the summer, it's a place where the city's youth can have lots of different activities. One of the city's specialists, Pişmaniye, entered the Guinness Record Book in 2009 as the world's biggest sweet. Fevziye Mosque, situated in Kocaeli, Kemalpaşa neighborhood, was built in the 16th century by İzmitli Mehmet Bey. The first construction of the mosque was one of Mimar Sinan's monuments, but it collapsed during an earthquake in 1776. During the period of Sultan Mahmud II, the mosque was rebuilt by Kaptanı Derya Firari Ahmet Pasha. In 1894, during an earthquake, the mosque collapsed again, leaving behind one minaret that we can still see today. Orhan Mosque, situated on one of Izmit's hills. It was built in the 13th century by Süleyman Pasha during the period of Orhan Gazi. The importance of the mosque is that the sermon is read with the sword. Since the building of the mosque, the Muslim preacher performs the prayer while handing a sword. Some of the mosques in Turkey are still performing this application. In order to read the sermon, the Muslim preacher climbs the steps of the minbar with his right hand on the sword. While reading the sermon, the Muslim preacher always keeps the sword in his hand. After the reading is finished, the Muslim preacher puts the sword down. Yeni Cuma Mosque is situated in Kocaeli, Yeni Cuma neighborhood, next to the old Istanbul-Ankara highway, and is also one of the sections of Pertev Mehmet Pasha's social complex. The mosque is known by the locals as Yeni Cuma Mosque. The construction of the building started after the death of Pertev Mehmet Pasha in 1572. and it was opened to the public in 1579. The social complex is one of the Mimar Sinan's monuments. Gültepe Necropolis. It was built between the 2nd and 9th century, and it's situated on the south part of the beautiful Gültepe and at the section of İzmit and Istanbul-Ankara highway. It was brought to the light in 1991 when it was found in a mural graves room. After it was taken out from the mural room, the necropolis was brought to Kocaeli Museum. Later on, after more diggings, there were discovered a lot of hypogenes with church relics and cross shape. In the west side, in long narrow rooms, there were discovered relics made by the Christians for their martyrs. Antique Aqueduct. It's located in the north part of the city center, between the Karaüzüm Sirke area and Üçtepeler housing, on the remaining area of streambed. It was built for the first time as a two-floor buildings counting 50 meters length and 15 meters height. Its foundations are still bearing the traces from the Roman Empire. We have learned from the antique sources that during the 2nd century, the aqueducts have been made by the Nicomedia's governor Plinius at the request of Roman Emperor Trajan. The construction was rebuilt many times, and on its upper parts are still appearing traces from Byzantium and Ottoman periods. İzmit Walls. They were built during the period of Emperor Nicomedes. Kocaeli's exterior walls were built while Bithynia was the centrum of the kingdom. The walls from the west to east measure 75 and 100 meters length, and from north to south 50 meters largeness. The north and southwest walls are undergirded with towers. İzmit walls have a vital importance regarding their constructing techniques and the brickwork used in Roman era. On the Roman walls, from place to place can be seen pieces from the Hellenistic period. The last renovations of the tower were made during the Ottoman period. Clock Tower. It's situated on a hill in İzmit, in Kemalpaşa neighborhood, between the hunting lodge and the Atatürk statue. It was built in 1901 by İzmit's tenant Musa Kazım Bey during the 25th anniversary of Sultan Abdülhamit II's throne ascendance. The clock tower was made by the architect Vedat Bey in a neoclassic style. Clock tower stands on a square base with two columns in its corners, with the circle-shaped arches fountains in its edges. The fountains are in the shape of niche, and they are surrounded by moldings. In addition, these fountains have profiled boards. Between the base and the body, a balcony was made. The body is divided into 4 parts, and the top of it was covered with a cone in pyramid shape. Under this cone, with wide eaves, a watch dial is placed for 4 sides. Under the 4 directions, this cone is placed on a watch dial. The tower was made in the neoclassical style, and each corner of the tower there are long and thin windows. Atatürk's monument. It's located between the hunting lodge and the train station on a hill. The monument was built in 1933 at the 10th anniversary of the Republic during the leading of Governor Eşref Said Bey. It's one of the pieces of work of the sculptor Nejat Sirel. At the monument, Atatürk is standing up, wearing a military uniform, with his right hand extended forward. Historical Kapanca Street. It's a street in an urban protected area, whose both sides are filled up with examples of civil architectures, one fountain, one underground tank, and one school. On this street, most of the houses are still under renovation. It's a street that conserves its historical configuration, and it's included in the municipality's Historical Corridor project. Kasr-ı Hümayun Ethnographic Museum. It's situated just above the port side and the upper side of Clock Tower. Initially built at the orders of Murad IV, there were no traces left from the hunting lodge. Nowadays, it's known and used at Ethnographic Museum, but it's also referred to names as Sultan Abdülaziz Palace, Hunting Pavilion, or Sultan's Lodge. The building that we know today was made for the presence of Padişah Abdülaziz during the opening of Haydarpaşa İzmit Railway in 1873. It was made by the architect Mimari Karabet Amirabalyan. The palace covers quite a wide space due to the separating office and guards place. The Archaeological and Ethnographical Museum. Kocaeli Archaeological and Ethnographical Museum can be found in the old train station area in İzmit. The constructions from this area were built between 1873 and 1910. In the Archaeology Museum, there are some sections dedicated to places like repair workshop, water tank, housing building. By uniting two monopoly stores were created showrooms for the archaeological works of art. Here, you can see works of art belonging to Paleolithic, Hellenistic, Rome, Byzantium, and Ottoman periods. Reserve Apartment. Redif Dairesi was made by Hasan Pasha in 1863 in İzmit in Kemalpaşa Street. It was built for the use of reserve offices in the Ottoman period, and in the Second Empire style with semi-masonry barracks built on pillars. There is a balcony that's overtaxed outside of the entrance of the reserve apartment. Past the entrance hallway, there are corridors with rectangular structure and also rooms around them. The rectangular windows at the bottom and at the top can be seen along the entire structure. The interior ceilings of Redif office were decorated with 19th century embellishments. The most spectacular parts of the building are these parts. The entire structure is covered with a wooden roof. Historical train station. The old train station, the warehouse, and the storage buildings are part of the Archaeology Museum. During the leading of Sultan Abdülaziz, a great importance was given to the railway system. So, in 1873, it was put into service the railway between Haydarpaşa and İzmit. The train station building, the warehouse building, and the storage building were built between 1908 and 1920. The buildings were made under German architects' supervision, but Italian stone masons worked at their structure. Watchmaker Ali Efendi's mansion. It was built during the period of Abdülhamid I in 1776. He had it done by Gümüşoğlu, one of İzmit's rich families. In time, the mansion passed into other people's hands, so it was bought by Ali Efendi, whose job was related to watch repairing. In 1976, was enacted by the Ministry of Culture. Its restoration started in 1978, and between 1987 and 2009, it was used as the Ethnography Museum. Nowadays, it's used by the municipality for cultural and art activities. Pink Mansion was allocated by Armenian Losika to the lawyer Tevfik Bey, who was the son of monastery refugee Mehmet Efendi. It's understood from the records of 1933. The owner of the house, Gülten Hanım, was the daughter of Tevfik Bey. As the construction technique of building was of the same period, dating was determined as 19th century. The building is 3-floor on a basement. The building is wood with plaster. The windows had the feature of the guillotine. There's a get out on the 2nd floor. As it was printed with pink color, it's named Pink Pavilion. Hill of Culture. In 2011, İzmit municipality launched a project named Hill of Culture. The clock tower from the Ottoman period, Atatürk's monument from the Republic period, with their appropriate explanations and constructions, are placed on a corridor that bears the same features. The Ottoman and the Republic periods from the corridor are unique and harmonized combination integrated in the Gulf's view. It's one of the places that the locals can visit and it shouldn't be missed by the tourists. Gölkay Park Water Skiing Complex. In 2010, Gölkay Park hosted the World and European Championships. Besides this, it's a place where the locals can have breakfast. Those passionate by fishing can go fishing on places specially made for them. And of course, it's a place where they can spend some quality time. The park is only 10 minutes away from the city center. Watching the sunset from the facility is one of the most enjoyable experiences ever. Famous İzmit cotton candy. The city has gained a reputation for this type of sweet candy. The travelers who pass through İzmit are first met by these sweet candy sellers. The sweet's white cotton image inside the box now became one of the city's symbols. It's an irreplaceable food during all the local celebration and feasts, due to the fact that it's a unique kind of sweet and light. This made it very popular outside the province's bounds. In 2009, by taking the title of the world's longest dessert, the Turkey Fairy Floss entered the Guinness Record Book. Why was it called pişmaniye? There is a possibility about the origin of pişmaniye. According to Ana Britannica, the origin of pişmaniye was Iran, as it was called peşmek in this country. It's possible that day by day it changed into pişmaniye in Turkish language. The reputation savers of İzmit pişmaniye were the Armenian masters, who settled İzmit and its surrounding area in the years between 1601-1611. The one who saved the reputation of İzmit pişmaniye was one of these masters, Şekerci Agop Dolmacıyan. However, during the time of World War I, like many others, Şekerci Agop Dolmacıyan migrated to another country after closing his candy shop. On the other hand, the first Secretary of Accounting in İzmit, Ethem Efendi, prevented the migration of Dolmacıyan's skill. He was teaching the children of Dolmacıyan Turkish and French languages while working in their shop, with learning all the intricacies about the preparation of pişmaniye. Ethem Efendi opened his own candy shop in Kapanoni district after Dolmacıyan's migration to America. Ethem Efendi lived between the years 1892 and 1853, and he had a colorful personality. He was known for his botanical culture and music ability. In the later years, his pişmaniye workshop in fact became a school for new masters. If you find yourself passing through İzmit, don't leave without trying its Turkish fairy loss, because the one who tastes it once is regretful for one time, but the one who never tastes it's 1,000 times regretful. Kocaeli Culture, Art and Entertaining Fair. It was first opened in 1966 with the purpose of introducing Kocaeli's industry. Today known as Kocaeli Cultural and Entertaining Fair. The park is hosting during the summer a lot of cultural and artistic activities. This place is the region's biggest amusement park and it's frequented especially by young people. Inside the park, there is a 39,000 meter square pond where the visitors can take some deep breaths during the hot summer months.